Hey you guys, got a really awesome attacking aggressive game to share with you today. It's not one that I played, this one was shared with me by one of my students, Christina, who's Tigers Without Stripes on chess.com, and it's a real beauty. So what we're going to do in this video, we'll go through the game, I know you're going to enjoy it, and then we want to ask the question, how can you be your own chess teacher? Okay, so we're going to look at how we can analyze the game, how you can analyze your games and use the analysis to improve your chess, but without overwhelming yourself and giving yourself too much to think about. Okay, so first of all, let's just, thank you, Cockerel, let's enjoy the game. Okay, so Christina's playing with the white pieces and we start with the Vienna game. So knight to c3 on move 2, e4, e5, knight c3. So both players, it's worth saying, are in the 1300 bracket. Okay, Black now plays bishop to c5, and this isn't the great one. I mean, what I play in response to this is queen h5, and we go into the wayward queen Vienna attack. I do actually have a video on this as well. So obviously you're threatening the pawn here with the queen, and potentially also bishop coming out, threatening that as well. So yeah, with the queen out here, a knee-jerk reaction is sometimes just to bring the knight out, but that just blunders the pawn. Okay, so Christina doesn't play that line in this instance. She actually plays f4, so this is like the Vienna gambit, but the knight isn't out here. Okay, so inviting Black to capture and to give up one of his central pawns. Black does capture on f4, and now we have knight to f3. This is very important. You've got to remember this if you play the Vienna game, or Vienna gambit in particular, because you've moved your f pawn, right? The forget about it pawn, okay? What that means is that this diagonal here is now opened up. Now should this, no, the pawn doesn't even have to move, okay? So because of that, because if the e pawn has moved, which it has in the Vienna game, because you start with e4, e5, okay? That then allows the queen to come out here. So like with other openings like the King's Gambit, this knight move is very important defensively to prevent the queen from coming to either of these two squares. Okay, so knight to f3, very good. And now we have h6, so maybe Black's thinking about, is the knight wanting to come in there? Well, I don't think the knight is at this point, because it's got a very important job to do in defense here. So I think maybe a bit of a jumping the gun a bit, being a bit overprotective maybe by Black. Okay, and now we have d4, excellent move. Kicks the bishop, grabs space in the center, and of course it's defended twice as well, so double defended for good measure. Bishop now retreats in front of the king to e7, and look at White's position now. Two knights developed, full control over the center, so we're controlling all four of these squares, as well as the knights are actually controlling those as well. So this is an awesome way to start. We're only 5 moves into the game, and look how behind Black is. That queen isn't coming out anytime soon. The knights can come out. This bishop is stuck there. The rooks are stuck. The king isn't about to castle. Okay, and we're on move 5. Okay, so now Christina grabs the pawn back, and material is equal, and she's got this enormous lead in development. Obviously you've got ideas now of the knight coming to one of these squares and maybe attacking c7. So what does Black do? Black now moves his bishop a third time. So the bishop's been there, and then back to here, and then up to here. Okay, generally not advisable. Obviously it's attacking this bishop which is currently undefended. Christina just dodges the bishop out of the way. Okay, ensuring that it's still looking down at this vulnerable c7 square. Okay, so Black pushes d6, which helps defend this square and also allows this bishop to come out into the game to some extent, might even come here at some point. And now bishop c4. So we're pushing ahead with development, nice rapid development. It is possible to capture the bishop here, of course. Yeah, I think one other option here as well would be thinking about capturing the bishop, because the queen can't recapture. So the pawn on h6 would have been forced to recapture at that point, doubling the pawns, but also opening up a route for this rook. So yeah, maybe Christina didn't fancy that idea. Okay, so here we go, bishop out to c4, then black develops his second bishop out here. Yeah, it's attacking the knight and also pinning the knight to the queen. So knight takes bishop is no longer an option, but bishop takes knight isn't bad either, because we can just recapture towards the center with a pawn, and that would be absolutely fine, I think, for white. And white now castles kingside. This is thematic in the Vienna Gambit. Once you've thrown Freddie the f-pawn up the board, Freddie very often has a very short life in this opening, but it makes sense then to castle kingside and put your rook straight onto the semi-open file. There's no white pawn on that file, so the rook can potentially go all the way to the 7th rank. Okay. Now, quite a similar thing quite often happens if you castle queenside, if the d pawn has disappeared off the board, because that then puts your rook straight onto the d file. So similar idea. This is a nice kind of front foot attacking way to castle, which I really like. Now we have knight to f6, and now Christina decides to kick the bishop that's got this knight pinned, which is understandable. You have to notice as well that as the pawn has moved from h2, it's no longer defending the bishop on g3, and there's no f-pawn to defend that bishop either. So that is leaving this bishop undefended for the time being. Bishop retreats again. How many times has this bishop zipped around the board? And this is fascinating. So I would like to know the thinking behind this. This is really front foot aggressive yang kind of chess, right? Because this bishop is hanging. Right? Christina's got a bishop. She's got 6 minutes 20 left on the clock. And with that bishop under attack, and if bishop takes bishop, then this rook is then under attack. Okay? So instead of thinking, oh no, I must move my bishop, what she does is counterattacks by pushing the pawn forward, hitting this knight. And that's interesting. So I guess this kind of works with the principle when you've castled, right? So Christina's got one nicely developed rook. She's also got queen and the other rook able to dive in. And when your opponent has not castled, then it tends to be a good idea to attack the center, try and open up the center and expose the king. So maybe that's the idea. Maybe she's thinking, I can handle this. Bishop takes bishop, pawn takes knight, give up my rook, maybe attack, capture another pawn or centralize the queen, I don't know. But let's see how the game ends up. There aren't actually that many more moves, we're about halfway through. So, obviously black captures the bishop and attacks the rook. Now, Christina doesn't even recapture the knight, okay, but just quietly moves the rook, slides it across to e1. So she's down a whole piece at this point. What's going to happen? Okay, now this is probably a mistake on black's part. Moving the knight into a position, okay, yeah, it's attacking this bishop, but that's not the key point, right? It's missing the point of what's going on, right? So let's say, for example, castles here would have been fine, maybe give up the knight, but develop the queen. And then the king is safe. Relatively safe. Alternatively, you could move the knight back there. You could even move the knight here with ideas of blocking on there. But this simply walks into a discovered check when e takes d6. The king's now in check. I'm going to have to put some of these cockerels in the pot, I think. Okay, king's now in check. So this bishop is safe for the time being. And now, this is an odd decision, because black's just surrendered castling rights. Okay, this knight is able to capture that bishop. I guess you can't block with the bishop. Yeah, there's nothing that can block because of this killer pawn on the loose. So yeah, bishop can't block or it'll just be captured, which maybe wouldn't be the end, but then that is attacking both of these two squares, and then the king can't castle, it's attacking the queen. Horrible position, right? So very well anticipated attack here. Okay, so So yeah, knight comes out to there, pawn takes with check, and now the king moves across. Now, this is where all hell breaks loose. Okay, so we have pawn takes c7 with a fork on the knight and the queen. Clearly, that's not going to be acceptable. The pawn is also protected by this currently undefended dark squared bishop, though. So the queen can't simply capture. This is mad. This is an absolute kicking. Okay, so queen moves out of the way to f6, and we have pawn to c8 promotes to queen. Wow, and check. Queen can block. Okay, so the queen blocks here. Queen is defended by dark squared bishop. So next, Christina compounds the pressure, moves the attacked and undefended, i.e. hanging bishop, here to d6 with check. Okay, queen cannot capture because the queen is pinned by her queen, right? I guess we could potentially interpose there, but then bishop takes bishop, attacking both king and queen, defended by a rook. So what can be done? King moves out of the way. And the next move, I think, is absolutely brilliant. It's basically white to play and win. It's not necessarily the most obvious move, but this is why you have to follow through this process of thinking, okay, if I do that, what if I do that? What's going to happen? Well, there's only one possible thing. Can you spot the move that Christina played basically to win the game at this point? Genius move. The move is rook to e8 check. Okay, the king is in check. Yes, the king could move out of the way and then rook takes queen. Okay, even if bishop takes back, we're in a totally winning position. So we have queen takes queen. Sorry, queen takes rook. Okay, because the rook's attacking both. Queen takes queen, check. And the king now is forced to move up to h7. And we have knight takes the bishop on g5 with check. Pawn recaptures. And then bang. Queen takes h5, checkmate. Beautiful, beautiful finish. Okay, so that's the first part. Now, what we want to do is look at the game report. We're going to be asking the question, okay, how can you use the game report to improve your play? So I think clearly black has a lot more to learn from this, but even when you have a crushing win like this, so let's put ourselves in Christina's shoes. Okay, so we've got, clearly gets a big advantage at the beginning, and then, oh no, what's this, right? Black equalizes in the middle of the game. Okay, now, what I always say, when you want to analyze your own games, okay, let's say you're a beginner, you're sub 1000 or even 11, 1000, 1100, 1200, 1300, the point of analysis is not that you should look at everything that is inaccurate. Okay, so the engine will tell you inaccuracies which are like, there was a better move, that was maybe okay, but there's a better move. Obviously, the good ones like excellent, brilliant, and book moves. So book moves are, people have known about this and written about this for a long time. So that's normally the same as best move. Okay, so apart from the good ones, you've got inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders, and miswins. Now, if you are a master level player, if you're a 2000, okay, then you should be polishing off inaccuracies, for sure. You shouldn't be making blunders, particularly on longer time formats, right? But, it's those guys. It's really, really strong players should be looking for inaccuracies to see how they can improve. But that really is polishing, right? What we're in the business of doing is hosing the mud off, okay? You want to get rid of the crud. So, where were their blunders? Where were their mistakes, generally? Now, if you've got a game, you've made 5 blunders, just look at the blunders, right? And when you look at that, you have to be your own chess teacher, you have to say, okay, what did I miss? Right? What was my thought process and what was faulty in my thought process? So let's work through this game. I'll switch to analysis mode. So we know that there is one blunder from that on Christina's part in the middle of the game, and let's figure out what it was, and then figure out how you might improve. Okay, so obviously e4, e5 book moves, been played millions of times, literally. Okay, knight to c3, the Vienna game, and now the Andersen defense with the bishop to c5. And here we have, so like I said, Christina plays f4, and it says it's excellent. Okay, nothing wrong there. It's a line. The computer suggests that actually queen h5 is the best move here, and that's this wayward queen attack that I mentioned, a separate video on that. E takes f4, it says excellent again, although d6 was best at this point. So let's look at that. d6 would have been that. Maybe. Okay, but you know we're not worried about these ones. Okay, knight out best. Okay, inaccuracy, and I picked up on that one in the game. It was like prophylactics, trying to stop the knight from going to g5, but I don't think that's the point of the knight. So plus it's very slow. You know, moving your rook's pawns does nothing to help your bishops get out into the game. This bishop needs one of these two pawns to move, right? This pawn does nothing. It takes one square away from this knight, potentially, that might be useful. And what's it doing? It's stopping one of Christina's pieces coming there. But why would Christina want to move her knight a second time before she's finished bringing her, you know, I can imagine like, yeah, bishop out to there, push a pawn, bishop takes there, castles, you know, that stuff all makes sense. The point of the opening is that you are moving all of your military units up to the front. Okay, so if you imagine the front is the line between the 4th rank and the 5th rank. It's the line between your half of the board and their half of the board. Okay, you want to mobilize your pieces up there and then you attack. Right? You don't send one solitary knight off charging into enemy territory on its own. Okay, anyway, d4 best, absolutely. Kicks the bishop, gains tempo, grabs control of the center, lovely move. Okay, this is good, but b6 was better. And we don't concern ourselves with that. Obviously grabbing a hanging pawn and developing a piece at the same time, best. Now moving the bishop yet again. We picked up on that in when we went through the game. Inaccuracy. Again, it's saying d6 is best. It's saying, dude, you haven't developed anything. Stop moving your stupid bishop around. You know, leave it where it is. And let's think about getting some other pieces into the board, eh? How about that for an idea? Okay, so this, it doesn't like. Yeah, it's attacking an undefended piece. So what, you know? g3 now would simply defend the bishop and open up another diagonal for the light squared bishop and also protect the king to some degree as well. Okay, that would have been absolutely fine. Christina in this case plays bishop to g3, which it says again is best. It also said the knight could have captured the bishop. Yep. And now finally black plays d6. Okay, best move in that situation. But black has now 3.9 points behind. Black has already lost so much initiative in this game. Okay, bishop c4, absolutely best. Bishops love to be on that square. Obviously it's gunning down at f7. And bishop out here, it says excellent. But actually, so now it's saying that putting the bishop right back to where it was a couple of moves ago was actually best. Okay, so the bishops come out and oops. So the bishop comes out, pins the knight. Okay, there we go. Bishop pins the knight, 4.4 down now. Love it. The computer loves that castling move. Developing a knight, good idea. Better late than never. h3 is good. But here, where are we in the game? Okay, so our mistake, the blunder hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure we'll notice it when it does. Okay, here it's actually saying that rather than that, that would have been even better. And that's an idea. So bishop takes f7 check. We've probably got king takes f7. Yeah, that would happen. Now what you can do on here, I don't know if you've figured this out, but you can actually click onto these. Okay, so bishop takes f7. Okay, This is why. So let it tell you, let it walk you through why it's better. King takes, okay. Knight takes g5, grabbing the bishop. The only way to recapture is with this pawn, okay. And and it comes with check. But in this case, it's saying that actually the most accurate move would be a retreat of the king. All right. Now, obviously, we've got a hanging queen as well. So it's saying that the knight would simply move back. Okay. Now, in this instance, we're still one pawn up, and we forced the king to move. So king's lost castling rights, and that's okay. So let's go back to the actual game. Okay, knight comes out as best, and here, what Christina plays is kicking the bishop away, because she's uncomfortable with that pin, wants to mobilise those pieces. Also, these bishops are looking kind of strong together. When you've got two bishops together, they feels like they control a lot of squares as well. And so maybe the queen hasn't got too many options now. But anyway, so we're not looking for that. Bishop to there. Here we go. This is interesting. This is the blunder. Right. And it's saying literally we're back to pretty much equality right now. When bishop takes, it's saying bishop takes c4. Then it's saying pawn takes knight, but that isn't actually what happens in the game. So there we go. This is best. And now rook to e1 is good. And now the engine slightly favours black. But what you have to remember as well is that the engine is always predicting what's going to happen in the game based on very accurate play. Now, when we play humans, if you are beginner improving level, you're not playing highly experienced players, you shouldn't expect highly accurate play. You're not going to get the most accurate play. So the computer's predictions are a bit kind of fantasy, aren't they? Because that's not actually how it's going to work. When you're playing humans, you're playing humans. So you're playing against the psychology, and computers don't understand that at all. They've got no concept of pressure, emotions, threats, that kind of thing, okay? All they can do is calculate. So here, it's saying rook to e1 is good, but taking the knight was better. And now black blunders, okay? Now, the computer never saw that. The computer never thought black might move his knight there, because the computer would go, does not compute, it's a stupid move, okay? Right, I mean, yeah, it's attacking an undefended piece, and people do that, right? And people miss stuff. And this is what this guy missed, okay? So, best move. King across there says pretty good. Oh, actually, this is quite interesting. Yeah, pulling the bishop back to protect the king. So we knew that because of the pawn was there, we couldn't block. So that would be a really good one for black to pick up on. Okay. But it's still saying white is completely winning after that knight move there. So this would be a good tip for black. Always think, remember, bishops can move backwards. Okay. There may be other ways to block the check. What do I want to do? I want to block the check so that I can castle my king and activate my rook, right? And when we looked at it in the first time, I never thought of this move, did I? I realised we couldn't play that because pawn takes, and we couldn't block with the queen because pawn takes. We never considered that one. Okay, so this is a good point where you stop and go, okay, so what did I miss in my thinking or my process? And it's because, okay, so king moves there. That would have been, slightly better. Okay. But, okay, so I didn't take enough time. If you're black, right? Didn't take enough time. There was actually a better move there that wouldn't have given up castling rights, okay? Best move, and now clearly a blunder. I mean, there's completely losing position from this point, okay? And that's massive. So what it's saying is that the queen should have gone to c8, and then maybe, pawn takes knight and promotes, and then queen or rook captures, and that would have been still a horrible position to be playing as black, but maybe black can come and grab this bishop. We don't know. There are still chances. This bishop's still looking quite aggressive. It's okay, but that's a blunder. So that's the kind of thing that black should go, oh yeah, and it's a blunder because we get a queen, and there's nothing to capture the queen. Okay, queen back there is best, but what else is there? This check just forces the king across. I mean, would this move have been playable now? Probably not, because I guess king can just... Oh, it says it's excellent, but not as good. Okay, and because king would take. Yeah, exactly. So that's not as good, and this is great because you can actually play alternatives and let the engine tell you how good that alternative might be. So Christina plays rook d6 check, best move. King moves away. Rook e8 is best, and that's a blunder. So what should he have done? Run away with a king. That's interesting. It's a blunder because it's mate in 8, but it's still a completely lost situation. So if you're white in this situation, I don't know. I don't know about this as a blunder. I mean, it surprised me when we went through it, but maybe that's the thing. You have to take it all with a pinch of salt. Yes, she's given up material, but she's given up material for this kind of initiative. Now, what we're saying that with most accurate play from black, this would actually have worked out as an equal game. But again, you have to remember, we're playing human beings with their own feelings and emotions and all that kind of stuff. We're also playing, another thing that you always have to remember is, your opponent's got the clock ticking. Okay? Computers don't consider that at all, right? So, for example, if you're analysing like an end game and your opponent's down to 30 seconds in the end game, and you're down to 30 seconds or whatever, there are moves that could help you to win on time, but computers don't even consider that. They just look at it as though you've got all the time in the world. How many levels are we going to calculate to? Okay, so that's it. That's my advice for how to be your own chess teacher. So if you're not in a position to book chess lessons right now, then set out, commit to being your own teacher. You will learn far more from playing, let's say, a 30-minute rapid game each day, and then taking the next 30 minutes or 60 minutes to review that game, review your mistakes and blunders, figure out what you missed in your thinking from that or in your process, and committing to trying to resolve that, repair it, fix it in the future and do better in future. You will improve far more in chess than simply playing 2 games. Okay? Play a game, analyse, and it's because your biggest mistakes, your biggest blunders or mistakes or whatever, your worst errors in the game will highlight to you where you need to improve. Okay, so that's it. I think just pick 2 or 3 moments in the game, and if you look at the report, look at where suddenly the game swings away from you, like it did in this case, okay, or in black's case there, okay, and just focus on those points, because trying to iron out inaccuracies right now is futile. You'll be drinking from the fire hose. It won't register. You won't improve. Improvement in chess is all about taking small steps and building on those. Okay, so that's it. That's how to be your own chess teacher. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. I'll see you soon.